Talks about remaking the It miniseries began in 2009. Cary Fukunaga was brought in to direct. His objective was to make a coming-of-age Goonies-type horror film. Unfortunately, he quit the project due to creative differences. Though unclear, people speculate that his ideas didn't fit the conventional narrative Universal wanted. Andy Muschietti was brought in to direct instead, after having directed the horror movie Mama. The film stars Bill Skarsgård and Finn Wolfhard. Hey guys, and welcome back to Garage Stephen-King-a-thon, where every day, for the month of October, we revisit a Stephen King adaptation. We're going back to It, ladies and gentlemen, but this time it's the remake, It 2017, directed by Andy Muschietti. I hope I'm saying that right. I don't think I am, but whatever. Guys, this movie, I'm mixed about, to be quite honest, but it does still hold a special place in my heart, because it's one of those movies I went to the theater to see, and it was such a unique experience to me, and let me explain to you why. I keep repeating this on my channel, but I used to work in a high school, and my job in the high school was to supervise field trips, which was a pretty cool job because I'm a movie buff, and I got to see a lot of free movies. I remember I got to see Avengers Infinity War for free. I saw Deadpool for free. That's one of the... But anyway, one of the field trips was to go see the movie It, which had just come out, and everyone wanted to see the movie It. But unfortunately, the movie was rated 13 and up in Quebec, and the way the Quebec rating system works, it's not like the PG-13 in America, where if you're under 13, you can still watch a PG-13 movie. It doesn't work like that in Quebec. PG-13 is... you have to be 13 in order to watch the movie, much like how an R rating works in America. So this kid, who was on the field trip, didn't want to go see the other movie that was playing. She really wanted to see It, and she somehow snuck by the movie theater that she was 13, and she got a ticket to see It, and she was very hyped to see it. But unfortunately, I caught her with the ticket, and I didn't know whether I should let this kid into the theater or not, because I'm the responsible adult in this situation. I should be the one to say, no, you're going to see the appropriate movie for your age. But at the same time, she tricked the cinema, so I was kind of on the fence. Do I let this kid watch this movie? Do I let her not watch the movie? So I made an agreement with her. This kid, she was a 12-year-old. She was adorable, this adorable 12-year-old kid, and she was really hyped to see this movie, and I didn't want to shatter all her dreams and all that stuff, and all her friends were 13, and they were allowed to see the movie, and I didn't want her to get left out, so I made an agreement with her. I'm like, look, you can go in the theater, you can sit with your friends, you just have to sit close to me. If something frightening happens, don't feel ashamed, don't get humiliated or anything, just tap me on the shoulder, and I'll walk you out of the theater, and I'll bring you to the bus where you can just chill with the bus driver. And she agreed to that, and she went to see the movie, and we were watching this movie, and she had her knees covering her eyes the whole time. She was sitting in a fetal position. She had her knee over her eye. She was like this. I'm gonna do it. She was like this the whole time. Guys, I'm in my underwear, by the way. But yeah, but she walked out, and she was amazed. She loved the movie completely, and I think it's because this movie has like that coming of age feel, which she really connected with. She was around the same age as the kids in this movie, so it connected with her, and the movie was scary to her, and I feel like that was a very good experience to her, and it's a very important experience for some tweens to have. I feel like people don't scare their kids enough nowadays. People are too scared to scare them. Ultimately, if I told my boss I did that, she would probably have been pissed at me, which I didn't tell my boss, thankfully, but I'm just saying it on my YouTube channel because I don't work there anymore. But I'm really, like, that was like the magic of movies to me, what I witnessed with that student. So this movie does hold a place in my heart, even though I don't completely love it like some people do. This movie, like I said, is a coming-of-age film like Goonies or like a Stand By Me, but it's mixed with a classic Blumhouse horror movie, and I'm not a big fan of Blumhouse, to be honest. On the one hand, I respect their business model. They're one of the few studios out there that are making mid-tier budget films and making it successfully. Just this October, we had Halloween Kills, which is doing pretty well at the box office, given that it's the pandemic and all. What I don't like about Blumhouse is their stylings and how they always resort to the same tools. They're always into those big, blasting, jump scare soundtracks. And this one is not void of that. But people on the internet always rant about how the jump scares in a Blumhouse film get old. To me, what really gets old about Blumhouse horror is how just the set designs to me, or the set pieces to me, are always overdone. The haunted house in this movie is a really ugly looking house. It's all wooden, the paint is all chipped away. It's the most generic looking haunted house you can find. When you look back at a movie like The Exorcist is a really scary movie because The Exorcist takes place in a normal person's house. It's like a normal-ass looking house. It's not this spooky house where they still use candles for some reason and the wood is all chipped away and there's old portraits and shit like that. I feel like whenever I see a Blumhouse horror, they just try way too hard with the atmosphere to the point it takes me out of it. That's my main problem I have with Blumhouse, other than the awful music. But as far as the tones, the coming-of-age tone with the horror movie tone, I feel like ultimately they do kind of work together. Despite me not liking the Blumhouse feel, I can say that the horror feel mixed with the coming-of-age story kind of works in this movie. Like I talked about with that student who went to the cinema, it really connected with her, so I can appreciate the movie on that level. Ultimately, while the student did find the movie scary, I really didn't find this movie scary for a few reasons. The one scene that's scary is that gutter sequence. That's the scene that everyone talks about, both in the original miniseries and in the remake.
Do you want it back?
Yes, please.
You look like a nice boy. I bet you have a lot of friends.
3, but my brother's my best S.
Where's he?
In bed, sick.
I bet I could cheer him up. I'll give him a balloon.
The reason why that gutter sequence works is because Pennywise is kind of hidden by shadows and we don't get a full glimpse of him. And I liked the build-up of this gutter sequence. I liked him talking to Joji. And I really liked Bill Skarsgård's performance in this. At no point was I wishing I was just watching Tim Curry instead. He really made the character of Pennywise his own. He's a less self-aware Pennywise, but he's more terrifying and creepy. And when it comes to Skarsgård's performance, he did a really good job in this. Even his voice, he's not trying to do a Tim Curry impression. He's like, "Ooh, you want a balloon?" He's like more like that kind, not like I called Tim Curry's Pennywise a New York cab driver. So he's not trying to do the same thing, which I appreciated. I like the whole build-up in that scene because it was really about Skarsgård's performance. What I didn't like about that scene this time around was how the payoff turns out, where Pennywise's face just smushes around and it gets all deformed and it gets a little too over the top, in my opinion. But then they make up for it by the kid really have a really big wipeout. That's something you don't see in movies nowadays, ladies and gentlemen, is kids really getting fucked up. This kid gets his arm bitten off and he's crawling and there's blood everywhere, and then he gets devoured by Pennywise. And I feel like it's important to have those kind of scenes because it ups the stakes. It ups the scares. Like, everything just feels a lot more threatening. This Pennywise guy is out for business. He's not fucking around, ladies and gentlemen. So, that gutter sequence, overall, I enjoyed it. I just wish they cut that one shot of his face all smooshing around. But overall, I don't find this movie to be all that scary. The flute portrait lady, who's a reoccurring character in this, is not scary to me. The leopard is not really scary to me. He kind of just looks like a guy in a Halloween costume.
Do you think this will help me, Eddie?
I just wish they had more Pennywise, because Skarsgård gives a really good performance in this. He's really chewing up the scenery here. Other than Pennywise himself, this movie is all about the kids. The kids do a phenomenal job in this. Great cast of kids in here. One of the kids was in the Shazam movie, and another one of them was in Stranger Things, and they really work well with each other. The chemistry between the kids is very organic here, even more so than the miniseries, which is something I complimented the original miniseries on. But here, what works here is they're able to use more foul language. Kids swear every other word. It's just a fact of life. And this is a more accurate portrayal of what kids are like. They're throwing mom jokes at each other, even though the mom joke doesn't really make sense. It's just like, your mom. And also what surprised me about this movie is that they use terms like retard and faggot, which was controversial when it came out. But I think if you're having a movie about kids in the 80s, it makes sense to have the inclusion of those words. Also, when they used the words, it was to portray a bad character, so it kind of made sense.
This summer's gonna be a hurt train for you and your faggot friends.
I feel like this movie is so close to being good. It just gets bogged down by the Blumhouse trappings. But overall, I think this movie will have a legacy. This will be regarded as probably one of the classics of the 2010 decade. Even though I don't appreciate it all that much, people who grew up with this movie are going to have fond memories of it, just like the people who grew up with the 1990 miniseries. So I really think this will become a classic. Yeah, this movie was just this was a box office hit. I remember when this movie came out, and I was about to move to Maine that year, I believe. Was it that year? Yeah, it was around that year. I was about to move to Maine, and I remember people were putting balloons on the gutters and pretending to be Pennywise and stuff like that, causing havoc in Bangor. And then the memes that came out of this movie as well. There was the whole dancing Pennywise meme, which was a big thing.
Are we so in denial when we know we're not happy here? Y'all don't wanna hear me, you just wanna dance. Don't want to meet your daddy.
I respect this movie just for being what it is. It's not the best movie out there, but it's not harmful. It doesn't, like, mutter my intelligence. It doesn't make me feel like dog shit, which, yeah, I guess that's a glowing review. No, I think this is a decent enough film. It's about a 6 out of 10 for me. It could have been so much better if they just focused on Pennywise and focused on the kids instead of the trappings of a Blumhouse movie mixed with, like, the leopard and the portrait lady and all that stuff. Guys, don't go anywhere. I'm going to be talking about It Chapter 2 later in this series. But guys, stay tuned. More Stephen King adaptations coming up.